Hey nerds, welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Rundown Recaps. I am your host, Erik here, and with me tonight is my main man, a Darren Stemple.
Scary one.
It was a scary one. And also on the show this evening is the toughest co-host
I've ever seen.
We've ever had. And we've had some
No.
good hosts.
I'd kill so many clickers.
But this guy is
come back to life so many times.
An absolute clicker killing legend in Big Morg 3000.
Finish him.
How's it going?
I did love the homage to Mortal
Perfect.
Kombat 2 on this the whole time. I thought
Yeah.
It was a good tie back to that the episode, and Melina does the fatality that she talked about.
That was pretty cool. So today we'll be recapping and offering some thoughts and insights into episode 7 of HBO's series The Last of Us. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons wherever you're watching or listening to our podcasts. You can also check us out on all of our socials, the social medias, on the intertubes, the interwebs. We got YouTube, of course, Twitter, TikTok. Hi, Chinese Communist Party again. So, and then also on Instagram. So if you're watching the show, hopefully you're watching the show because this one's going to be spoiler filled. We'll be talking about every detail of the show, kind of wringing it out. But this week's episode, the title for this week's episode is Left Behind. So, and this is a well thought out title. I will just say that because of what's happening in this epised. So Morg, I'm gonna kind of start with you as far as like the viewer breakdown for the episode. Talk a little bit about where this episode takes place in the game, and kind of give me your thoughts, just briefly your thoughts on what you thought of the episode overall.
Yeah, so quick, I'll just say overall, I did enjoy it. I liked it. It's, I don't know, I call it a plain episode, which isn't right. Obviously crap happens, but I don't know. I did enjoy it overall. I did like this episode, but where it takes place, if you actually play the game, this doesn't happen. None of this happens in the game when you play the game. Joel goes down. We see him go down. Time jump. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right.
And in the game, it's a little different than from the movie or in the show. In the show, the dude smashes a baseball bat over a tree and he gets impaled by the handle of the baseball bat. But in the game, he falls off of like a second story
at the college that he was at, and
then lands on a thing of rebar.
Rebar,
yeah,
not rhubarb.
Yep,
not rhubarb.
Not
but
rhubarb,
yeah. So in the game, what it is after the game came out, it was a huge success. They made DLC, so downloadable content, which was basically
acronyms for the win.
Yes.
DLC, downloadable content. So what it was is you could pay a little extra money and you got a little extra story in The Last of Us that you could play. And that's what this is. It was called Left Behind, just like the title of the episode. And it followed it, pretty faithfully. If you played Left Behind, you watch this and there was almost nothing different. In that though, the big difference is she's actually moving around a mall in the game trying to find supplies to help Joel. And she's having flashbacks of these moments in the mall that we see in the episode.
Oh, interesting.
So that's kind of it. So instead of just in the house, she's actually looking around and doing stuff like that, trying to find medicine to help save Joel. But other than that, it was pretty spot on, pretty similar.
Okay. So overall, your thoughts were it was an okay episode.
Yeah, it was okay. I would say it's good. I go above okay. I'd say it's good.
Okay.
I wasn't
Darren?
like holy crap, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm a Venn diagram between you guys, where I have played the game, first game only. I have not played the DLC or the second game. While Erik hasn't played the game at all, Mark's played the game a lot, so I'm kind of the in between. And in this episode, I actually fall more towards Erik's circle, because I think I didn't play this DLC because it didn't have Joel in it. And for an episode that didn't have Joel in it, it was more enjoyable than I had presumed. Assumed? I don't have evidence. Assumed. But definitely probably the weakest. Some really, really great moments, and a weak episode of The Last of Us. If that's a weak episode of The Last of Us, we are in good shape.
Yep.
So,
I guess like what? Sorry to interject. Like what makes you say it's like a weak episode? Like just lack of, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah.
What do you like?
Well, it doesn't feature the toughest man alive in Joel.
The toughest guy.
Guess what he's doing?
He's basically dying.
He's laying down
the whole episode.
He would have just held it the whole. He would have stuffed some dirt in there to clog it and just kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a med kit.
Yeah. I mean, he should have just popped the cap off of one of those bullets that he has in his gun and just poured the powder in there. And just,
totally.
I mean, that's what Rambo did.
And shot really close to it.
That's what Rambo did. He cauterized the wound just like that.
Straight.
So.
Yeah. But also because, so I get that there's a story behind how she gets bit, and this is a story of it. I just felt like you didn't need to make an entire episode out of it.
Right.
Yeah, because in the game, you get this story. Just Ellie tells it to you. In the game, that she just says what happens. And it wasn't until the DLC where you actually see it play out.
Yeah. There's again still some magical moments that I'll get into. But I really need that tough guy back next episode.
So in the first place.
Well, so yes, I do find this to be the weakest of the series.
The weakest week.
But
you ever watch that show?
But you are actually correct, Darren, as well, in that if this is the weakest of the episodes, we're doing pretty well. Because this was still a good episode. I just think it was probably 20 minutes longer than it needed to be. You could have truncated a lot of this down, and maybe put in some other storyline or expanded, like the game seems to have done, where expanded her search for supplies and stuff like that to help Joel in the present time period. So as we're kind of alluding to, this is a time jump episode. So we start off the episode with where we kind of left off Ellie and Joel, in that Joel's bleeding out. They have found a house that they're staying in, and he's in the basement, and he essentially has lost a ton of blood and he's in bad shape. Like he's not going to make it. And so he basically tells Ellie, you need to go. You need to go. You need to let me die, and get out of here before something bad happens. So, and this is hard for Ellie. She really cares for Joel at this point. We're at that point in the show where she cares for him. She loves him, and this just snaps her back to another person that she loved and lost, which isn't much. She doesn't have a great history of these types of people and moments in her life, but she makes a series of decisions in that previous one, and we kind of get to see how that kind of plays off, or plays out, I should say. So Joel is like, you need to get out of here, you need to go, and that triggers her memory of the time when she was a little, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts on where this takes place in the timeline of Last of Us? Is this like a year or two before she meets Joel?
So when she was bit, it had only been like 2 weeks until Joel's on the journey with her. So bit 2 weeks later, Joel's taking her.
Maybe been 3 weeks at
Yeah,
most.
somewhere around there,
Okay.
2 to 3
Okay.
weeks. You know, a month tops.
Okay, so this is still pretty well. So we're talking 6 months later. You know, essentially 6 months after.
Yeah,
But
'cause
by this
I think
point,
it's
Winter.
it's like 3.5 months or something
yeah.
since she's been bit.
Okay.
Although she did get bit again.
She got bit again. Yep.
What's funny is in the same spot, but she did get bit again in the museum.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably been like 6 months because it seems like they went from summer to winter.
Yeah. Well, we did get last
said,
episode was a 3 month time jump. And I think it probably took them a month or two to get from, so it may be 5 months all total from the time it happened. Because I think
it feels like it takes 3 months to get across Kansas, believe me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's terrible. Always try and do it at night because it's just.
Oh, dude, it's so much easier at night.
So much easier at night. So
it's weird.
And it really is. But yeah, so we snap to a memory for Ellie, and she's running laps around a gym in what looks like a Fedra school. You know, she's with all these other teenage kids and stuff like that. She's got her Walkman on. She's jamming to some tunes, and then her and another girl kind of get into a scuffle, and you know, there's an
Bethany.
Yeah, it's alluded that there's somebody that's been protecting Ellie, and that person's not around anymore. You know, and so what's Ellie gonna do? You know, and so Ellie takes it upon herself to fill in the gap, you know, to fill in the thing. And so we of course we don't get to see it, but the very next scene, we're seeing where Ellie is in an office, and there's a guy by the name of Captain Kwong, who's played by Terry Chin, who he's a guy that shows up and stuff, and like every time I see him in it, he's really, really good. Like,
what else is he? I'll look it up if we don't want to get into it, because I was like, who is this guy? He's killing it.
He really is, and I've seen him and stuff, and I cannot for the life of me, like I looked through his IMDb the other day, and I was like, what have I seen you in? That made that, you know, I know he was in an episode of Psych, which is one of my favorite shows. I know he was an episode of that. And then he's been in some other stuff too. And it's like, just every time I've seen him and stuff, I've just been like, oh man, this dude is like, he's like he should be, whatever roles.
Oh, he was in Jessica Jones.
Whatever roles he's been in, he needs more.
Was he?
Like, just cast him more.
Maybe I'm wrong on that.
But he and Ellie have a conversation, you know, and he basically breaks it down for her. There are two types of career paths that are in front of you, you know? And so Darren, I guess I'll kind of let you kind of break it down for us, I guess, you know, this particular scene. Cause this is actually a pretty good, because of something that happens here soon after this, you know, he apparently gives this speech to somebody else, or at least it's clear that this speech has been given to somebody else, and they're a little bit different. So go ahead and talk about his conversation with Ellie.
Again, he did a great job, and he makes a really good point. You're like listening to this Fedra officer, and you know the stigma around Fedra,
right?
And when he's like, you know, we're the ones holding this all together, and it's like, I mean, from a certain point of view, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
right.
It's hard to disagree with him.
Yeah.
And he knows what's happening in other Fedra stations when they get taken over.
Right.
Which this is happening before Kansas City. So, you know, it's happened in other places as well, as basically what that's saying.
Yeah, because this would be Boston, right?
He gives Ellie we like to call a binary choice.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can go down two paths. This path sucks. This path is better. Obviously, you have, you know, it's the illusion of a choice, you know, and they play that off really well. And what this does for Ellie throughout the episode is huge, because it puts her at odds with Riley.
Right.
Once you find out, you know, Riley's now bluebirds, honeybirds, beetlebees,
fireflies.
I can remember.
Bluebirds.
Yeah, bluebirds. Those are the gangs inside the fireflies. Anyway, so it's huge because it puts her at odds, and it does keep a little bit of a distance between them.
Right.
at times throughout the episode, and that
Right.
was smart writing.
Yeah,
I love that.
It really was, because later on they do have a conversation. We'll talk a little bit about the conversation that they do have. You know, where it's like clearly Ellie's on a different path, or at least from what
She
Captain
chooses the right
Kwong is
path,
saying is like,
essentially.
look, you're smart and
Yeah.
you could have a real future here if you wanted to do it. Whereas some of these other, world
Bethany's gonna be
needs
Bethany.
ditch diggers too, I guess, is what he kind of basically comes down to. You can either be an officer or you can be a ditch digger, and
An officer in control of Bethany, or
Yep.
You can be an officer, or
Right.
you can burn poop.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, and
What
like
do you wanna
Bethany is not an officer material, so that she'll be able to have her revenge on her anytime she wants to. So
Yeah.
well, she obviously goes the officer route.
yeah, right. So we kind of pop into I loved the dorm room. We go into the dorm room.
So many little cool things.
There
in
are so many cool things on there. I loved, because of the 80s kid in me, the inner space, inner space poster on the wall, starring Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. Oh my gosh. And Meg Ryan, just, so cool. So cool. So, having that one on there, but that wasn't the only other poster. I think, there was a Mortal Kombat 2 poster on there, but that was on the other side of the room.
That was the big one.
Yeah, it was the big one. Was the big one in there and stuff. And I'm sure there's other
Little
Easter eggs in there. I don't know, Morg, if you can kind of fill in a little bit. I'm going to hit you twice with this one.
Okay.
Because
there weren't really like many Easter eggs there. I mean, the Mortal Kombat 2 was a definitely big one, because earlier in the show, earlier in the season, or so not the episode, but early in the season, she talks about Mortal Kombat 2 with Joel and how she had a friend that could kick butt in it, essentially.
Yeah.
So that was a
Spit
little
out
nice,
your bones.
Yeah,
I can always hear her
call
saying
back to that. But yeah, so Ellie's reading her comic too. That we know she loves. We see her reading the comic, trying to go to sleep. And she's clearly looking at the empty bed. She misses whoever was there, and then we get a nice little surprise of this character coming in,
right?
And
which was kind of funny, because she's the way she surprises her is she's basically puts her hand over her mouth real quick, and it's
covers
like,
her mouth, and like obviously she assumes she's about to die, and freaks out. But they just have a quick little. She's pissed off she left, but happy she's back. A little reunion. They hug, and basically Riley's like, "Hey, I got something for you. I'm gonna surprise you with something."
Let's
and then
go.
they do a very fun thing that you do a lot of in the game, which is move across rooftops.
Yeah, so that's the second part of my question then is so this particular point is that they're sneaking around outside, they're jumping from rooftop to rooftop. They come across a dead guy who's got a bottle of booze with him. And so how does that how does this whole scene kind of, or I guess this series of scenes that we looked at, compared to how the game, how far the game goes with this? Was this pretty accurate? Was this pretty close?
Yeah, this was. I mean, it was, like I said, this whole episode is pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
There isn't too much. I can't remember.
They do talk in the room about how Riley is a firefly, and I'm gonna
because she
talk about that all night now.
Yeah,
and she shows so the fireflies wear a necklace with basically, it's like their dog tags.
Yeah.
And she shows that off, like, look, see, I'm a firefly. She doesn't whip out a pistol. She shows that off instead. Proper gun handling, people.
Right. Please.
So she shows that off. So like that's early on. She knows, about the firefly, what she's joining. I don't think we find a dead body in the game like this. I don't remember that at all.
I have to admit, I did laugh out loud when it fell.
Was so funny.
Oh yeah,
it was like a weird kind of like slapstick kind of laugh too. It was weird, but it was great.
It was well
great.
timed. It was well timed.
Yeah, both pretty
it was well timed. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty great.
About that.
So they're drinking a little bit of booze on the roof, and then they kind of have this moral debate about Fedra and fireflies, and what that is all about, and all that good stuff. And so, but at the end of the day, they make it to what will be the majority of the episode. It takes place in an abandoned underground mall that is in the greater Boston area and stuff. And so Riley has some surprises in store for Ellie, and because she spent all of her time in the quarantine zone, but she's been highly I guess what's the word I'm looking for here? Highly pent up, I guess, or whatever. Like they don't let her out to explore all that much, because you don't want to get infected. So your sphere, the world that you live in is very confined. That's a good word. Is very small. It's a very small world that she lives in, and so this is unbelievable because she's that the kids have read magazines. You can see that they've read magazines. You could see that they've read books or paperwork that has pictures of these types of things. So she knows this stuff existed or exists, but this is her first time actually interacting with it and seeing it. And so Riley, it's really funny because it's like the relationship between Riley and Ellie is, I wouldn't say an older sister type, but Riley doesn't take any of Ellie's shit, is basically what it comes down to. Like, Ellie's like, nah, she says, go through that door, turn right, go through the other door. And she's like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. Ellie says, I'm not doing it. And Riley looks at her and says, go through the door, to the right, and tell me when you're on the other side of the
alpha.
door. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so she pushes her around in that situation, and Ellie complies because she needs a firm hand, like she's a smart ass. She does all that stuff. And that's what Joel provides for her in our modern story that we've left. But she, Riley has that firm hand for her and stuff. So Riley flips on the power, and Ellie is like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. The whole mall comes to life, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there.
Shout out to Bella Ramsey in this scene.
Yes.
You can see the wonder in her face, like it really felt like that was the first time she'd ever seen something like that.
First time she's ever been to a mall.
I mean, just incredible face acting because that's all she does is.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was really great. It's a really great set piece. It's a really great storytelling piece because everyone who's watching this has been in a mall for the most part, has been in a mall, and none of that stuff matters. Like none of the things that they're going to do in this mall are anything that we would even sneeze at or look or think twice about, we wouldn't even think about it. Like the escalator,
I avoid it.
Right.
It keeps me from having to walk upstairs, like I just get on and I write it down and I write it back up again, but you think about this girl's never, she's never doing it. So like you said, Darren, her amazement and wonderment during this scene is really great. I love that she calls them electric stairs. They're electric stairs, and she's like, I go up or I go down. See, now I'm not even going anywhere, and she's like, and it's like, okay, like every kid.
Dude, my girls love escalators.
Yeah.
When we go to the mall, that's like a ride.
Go on them.
It's a ride.
Yeah,
it's a ride.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like all these things that we kind of take for granted. For her, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. This is absolutely incredible. So
also why it's a good set piece is the majority of people watching it again have been to a mall.
Yeah.
And the majority of people watching this grew up with malls being like the shit. That's
places where
that was the cool place
where you went
to be.
Go
hang out. Like as a teenager, you would go hang out
or
there.
If anything, at least a lot of people have watched Stranger Things.
Yep.
And I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've just, daydreamed about saving the day at the mall or at an end of the world where, that's where you want to go. You want to go to a Target or you want to go to a mall.
Right.
So it's really cool. Like this is like my many times I thought of, I don't want to say fantasized, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
About being in a mall at the end of the world.
Yeah. That was interesting. One of the scenes that they kind of juxtapose in here is the soap store is right next to the Nike or Foot Locker, and so all the tennis shoes and the sneakers have been looted, but you look in the soap place and it's got a ton of stuff, and like in Ellie's world, the soap is probably way more valuable than the sneakers are, like I mean, you wash your hands and keep you from being infected, disinfectant and all that stuff. So so it just is
that, or it's just a good juxtaposition because you see shoes. Look at Joel's shoes last episode. He had to tape them together.
Yeah.
But the Victoria's Secret store is full.
The Victoria's Secret, right? Because there was no need, at least for survival purposes, there was no need. And the girls are actually really perplexed as to why anybody would need that stuff. Like, why would they need this stuff? And it's like, well, but they're kids.
Really good. It's really cool.
They don't, they don't know. So, and then the joke that Riley makes is, I was just thinking about what you would look like wearing that, and Bella's just like, oh my gosh, she's like, just, it was funny. It was a cool scene.
It was a really cute scene. And I loved her little, stay back and fixed her hair. It was kind of like an adult, a mature moment.
Clearly flirting.
Yeah.
I love like first love stories.
I was going to say, there's a lot of subtle flirting in this as they...
a nice little Easter egg in the mall is the Dawn of the Wolf poster. They had the Dawn of the Wolf Part 2 poster, which is like there in the game, you'd see that everywhere. And it was like their Twilight. So that's something that, and like she even, would ask Joel about it, like, what is this? And he was like, she's like, does he rip her apart in the end? And he's like, well, no, it's actually a love story. And, and that's where he kind of alludes, like, you get a feeling that like he had a kid, because she's like, why'd you even go see it? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And would walk away. And then there's a great scene in the game too, where she sees a model, a poster of a model, kind of like the Victoria's Secret here. And she looks at Joel and is like, I thought you guys had food.
Yeah.
Why is she so skinny? Like,
that's funny.
I thought you
had not to eat.
That's funny.
Like there's another, all that, like they capture that well of her, like, what did you do back then? It makes no sense.
Well, they leave the Victoria's Secrets, and they're moving along, and so Riley kind of explains that she's got this whole day planned for Ellie, or this evening planned for Ellie, and she's got a bunch of surprises for her. She says there was 4, but I guess with the escalator, there's 5 surprises. So which is cool that they added that in there. So the first surprise we get to is, or wonder, I should say, is the carousel. It's just neat. As kids are, even teenagers, everybody really likes, everybody loves the carousel. And for that, it's a very special moment. So Darren, you talk a little bit about the carousel scene. How did that impact you, I guess, or how did it affect you?
Up until this scene, that's where I was like, come on now, And I got to this scene, and the heart of the episode came out, and I got to first talk about the music, because
the music on the carousel.
The music on the carousel, which is it's a rendition of "Just Like Heaven" by The Cure, which is a very important song in my life. It's a song that Banana and I walked out of our ceremony to.
Nice.
Started playing when they're like, "You now pronounce you man and wife." And it's one of the best ways to ever open a song. And it's also a song, my mom and dad song. So we share that love for that song, and the putting it in the Rockabye Baby, like lullaby version, the music box. It's like now my new favorite version of the song. been listening to it all week.
That's funny.
It's just, but what it does with the scene is it adds to the magic of the scene, where you can tell these two characters have feelings for each other, and it's being emoted through this amazing thing that, of course, Ellie's experiencing for the first time as well. And so the emotions are starting to rise, and it's a good minute and a half with no words, and it's just this song playing, and they're going around, and it's an incredible scene. So just the excuse me, I need some water.
Well, yeah, it was a really touching
Excuse
scene between them, because up to this point you've seen a little bit of flirting and stuff like that, but it really kind of, you can see Ellie's yearning for Riley, you know, and even Riley is some playful flirting coming from Riley as well, you know.
Yeah, they did this better in the show. In the game, Riley doesn't get on the carousel with you.
Yeah.
She starts it while you're on there, and Ellie's like, "Oh, it even goes up and down," you know, and then she's like, "Come on, get on." And by the time she gets on, the ride's over, because, you know, it's just a quick little mall ride.
Right.
So I thought they did that better in the show, just showing that connection a little bit better.
Yeah. Just a really one of those scenes that just tears at your heartstrings, because now you're starting to thinking about, like, where's this gonna go?
Yeah, you kind of start to know,
and you start thinking like, okay, they're starting to build the emotion.
Yeah.
And I know Neil Druckmann likes to give you a win and then take it away immediately. So, which he hasn't done yet.
Right.
He will build it up, and that's what he starts with this scene. It's really great. One of my favorite scenes of the season.
Yeah. So Riley then explains to Ellie why she left. And we come back to that conversation that she had earlier with the officer, the Fedra officer. You know, basically, Riley was told she's not on the officer path; she's on the ditch digger and sewage detail. You know, she's been assigned the sewage detail, and so she's gonna have to scoop up poop or watch people scoop up poop for the rest of her career. At least that's what she's told at that point. So she kind of takes off and kind of runs away, if you will.
Photo booth?
No.
Is the photo booth? The photo booth's right after Carousel, right?
No. This is why the photo booth is after this one. So,
okay.
The photo booth's right.
That would make sense, because they had the connection. So Ellie's like a little like, I just talk about this. Why are you leaving me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought after the carousel, it was like, how can this get better? And she goes, right there, it's the time machine.
Yeah.
And then it's the photo booth.
Yeah. Yeah. So she tells Ellie that basically that's how she got recruited into the Fireflies, was that, you know, Marlene found her, watched her and all the running around she was doing, and all that, and so she's like, you know, do you want to come join the Fireflies? And so Riley was like,
belongs.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to shovel poop or watch people shovel poop, then, you know, it's gonna be. So yeah, so then the next after that, though, it's like, what's wonder number 2? And she kind of points over her shoulder at the photo booth, and she's like, is that a time machine? And I was like, that's hilarious. So
I'd ask the same thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they have a cute teenage love couples moment in you know, and just girls being silly, you know, even if they weren't even
kids being kids, really.
Yeah. Even if they weren't romantically interested in each other, just being goofy together, it was pretty cool. And then, you know, of course she gives her the photos and stuff, and that 20 years down the road, I don't know if the film would really work, but you know what, for the purposes of the show,
it does fade pretty quick.
Yeah, we'll suspend disbelief and take it. But
it does fade pretty quick.
Yeah. So then we move on to I guess location number 3, and this would be the place where you would most likely find me in a mall.
All of us there.
All of us would be there.
Which is the arcade. And and it was awesome. Like I was like, holy smokes, that's a sweet arcade, you know, lots of pinball machines, all that other stuff. And
again, Bella Ramsey just nailing the look. Like and I think this is what she says. She says it's like the coolest thing she's ever seen, or
This
something.
is the
right?
most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Yeah,
Beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yep. So it was cool. It was really cool that she said that. So and then we finally get to play and see Mortal Kombat 2. And they're like, she's like, well, where's do you have any money? And she's like, she just got cash, and she's like, well, that's not gonna help us. And so she goes over to the quarter machine and empties out and fills it full of bucket, and they just play Mortal Kombat for a while. So honestly, this scene here is when I thought for sure they were going to get attacked. Like I thought that's
all the noise
and all that stuff. They're never going to hear or see anything. And I think that's when the tension really starts to get moving, and they break that tension, but in a way that was really, really great. Because here I am thinking, oh crap, this is the moment they're going to get attacked. And the camera pans down and away from it and into another room. And sure enough, you see a clicker on the floor, and he's just sitting there, but he comes to life,
Yeah, starts to move.
And so
I need to point out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Apparently, like, old Game Informers must be laying around everywhere, because Riley knew the finishing moves for like every character, and I don't know the finishing moves for every character.
And that's what I was thinking too, is and that's what made me think that they must have read magazines. They must have, I mean, first of all, she would have to have seen a magazine of Mortal Kombat 2 anyhow, because that she didn't she just discovered this mall recently, so there's no way, so she must have seen this.
Craig, I was like, good Lord, I was like, I can't even do that right now. Like,
right.
I think it was more like a nerd clicker, like saw him just smashing buttons and he got really pissed, and he's like, no, I can't allow that. I
gotta show you how to play. That's my name.
Yeah.
You can't take my high score.
Yeah. And I'll say too, in the game, just the difference here, they don't have any money to play the games. They don't turn them on or anything.
Yeah.
And it's
electricity to run them.
It's a whole different game. There's no Mortal Kombat in it. I'm sure they can get the licensing to that. But she tells Ellie to close her eyes and describes playing the game. And you're kind of playing the game in the DLC, but it's neat. Like, you're like the screen of the game, and you see Ellie's face, and it's like lit up like it's on.
Yeah.
And then you're controlling like the little character she's imagining fighting. It's a really neat scene cool. Between the way they do it and the way you just hear Riley talking and Ellie's just in her own world. And it's pretty neat how they do it in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we kind of, we move to the final wonder of all this. Riley takes Ellie over to the costume shop, the Halloween costume shop, I think is what it is. And they each grab a couple of masks and they start, fooling around and just being kids, they're dancing on top of the thing and just having a good time.
It was a cute scene.
It was a cute scene. Yes. Yeah. It was a cute scene between it's it's something you could totally see teenage girls just being goofy together, and they've had, some booze. They've been drinking some alcohol and stuff like that, which is actually, if we go back to the episode prior, when she tried the alcohol, she was like, nope, still tastes like shit, but now like where she's tasted it before and all that. So, but Ellie basically says, at this point, I need to go back. I got, I got to be up in the morning, and they're gonna come get me, And so I think at this point she has, she's made her choice that she's going to go all in on Fedra, like she's going to do the federal officer thing and get, kind of go straight. And Riley's like, that's fine, but just stay right here with me, just in this particular moment, let's just stay right here, with me. And I thought that was it was a cool move, to just kind of keep her in the present and not, and so she kind of goes, I guess they kind of go through, into another place. I think they go into a restaurant. Is that what they're into, is like a restaurant or something like that? And she gives, I think it was like
they stay here.
Oh, like a back kitchen.
Yeah, it was like a back.
They went into Macho Nacho.
Yeah, that's right. Macho Nachos. I remember
That's
the
where
restaurant.
Riley's little bunker is with her.
Oh,
with her
yeah.
Where you see all
So-
the pipe
Yeah.
bombs that
I thought
she's
that was
built.
before the Halloween.
It was after.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. It was. They went to that because that's where she sees the grenade. She gets mad. They have their argument. She runs off.
Oh, that's right. That's
He
right.
hears the screams and goes back to the.
That's
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
because they have
Yep.
the fight
And then
there.
the
She
click
runs
comes
away
in
and
that-
she
in that.
thinks,
Yep.
yeah, she thinks Riley's being attacked, and she goes back, and it's just the
Yeah.
decorations.
Yeah,
of
you're
her
right.
own
You're
store.
right. You're right. So,
Okay.
so yeah, so they go in there and she sees all the pipe bombs and stuff like that, and she's like, what are we doing? And Riley basically tells Ellie, why don't you come with me? Just come with me. And I don't think she's Ellie's not into blowing up people. She's not into that. And
She doesn't want to kill him.
they have that argument about Ellie saying, would you blow me up? And she goes, well, no, I would never let them do that. And she's like Marlene or any of the Fireflies are going to listen to you, or whatever. And I think that really kind of stung Riley pretty good. That was a pretty quick dig on everything. So yeah, so Ellie rushes off and has second thoughts, and then she hears the screaming and runs back. And again, because of what we've seen before, and because of it's The Last of Us, fully expect to see, Riley being attacked by somebody. And again, not, that they haven't, we still haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Like it's coming. You just don't know when. Now we've got really two instances where the attack is expected to happen and all that, but it never does. So I guess I'll skip maybe Morgan if you want to talk a little bit about the Halloween decoration scene, where they have the masks and stuff like that, but kind of where that goes after, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that again is like from the game. You can walk around the store and you put on different masks and stuff, and that's what dance. I mean, Ellie dances in the show just like she does in the game. Awful, like Ellen from Seinfeld, doing a little, but So I mean, it kind of they have another discussion while they're dancing, essentially, and this is when it gets emotional, and you see Ellie's like wants to cry. She doesn't want to lose her at this point a friend, but
right.
She says to Riley, like, just stay with me, and Riley's like, I'll do it. I'll stay. And that's when Ellie makes the move. She goes in for the kiss.
Yep, she does.
She makes the move, and Riley kind of like gives her a look, and Ellie's like, oh shit, like, I'm sorry. But
you got to think about that. I mean, like, we've all had that first one, and it is at least I don't know for you guys, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying because the fear of the rejection of that moment, like what happens if you get rejected, and how crushing would that be? And I think
me play, I knew I wasn't getting rejected.
Yeah, of course. Probably neither one of you guys. Well, you guys are both
old.
You guys are both handsome fellas. So
hey, baby.
with a face like this, with a face for radio, you have to worry about stuff like that. So, but her fears are put to rest very quickly because Riley doesn't pull back. She doesn't. She doesn't spurn the advance, I guess, or whatever. And so there's that sweet moment of, oh, you like me too, like you I like you and you like me, and and like you said, Darren, because talk about the next scene, because the way you described Neil Druckmann is he giveth and then taketh away,
Exactly. Yeah. Which is very J.R.R. Tolkien of him. He always would give you a win and then he'd take it away, or he'd take something away and then give you a win. It's really great writing because it messes with your emotions.
Yep.
They just do such a good job with it in this show.
Yeah,
like it doesn't feel over they don't do it too much. Like they really built this one up just to take it all away.
Yeah,
and Poor Ellie.
And
it's a scary scene when that clicker comes in, though.
It is, it's intense.
You could tell he's a violent one.
Yeah, for sure. And when they talked about that before in one of the other episodes, was they said, you may be immune. Joel said, you may be immune, but you're not immune from being torn apart, you know, and you could see how violent that thing is. And, you know, they probably do tear apart a lot of people, you know, so,
Yeah.
or, you know,
Especially when they get to be bloaters.
yeah. So she,
it's in the game.
So they both, you know, it was interesting because she's like clawing at the mark. Ellie is clawing at the mark on her arm, you know, and you can see that Riley has been bitten on her hand.
Alert, they get bit.
Yeah. But then
they
at this
the
point,
but they get bit.
At this point, we start to see a flashback to our present time with her and Joel, you know, and she is, and I thought this was really cool because you see she's gone upstairs in the house and she starts going through everything in the house to try and find anything that can possibly help her fix Joel, you know, and compared to then we flash back to the mall and Riley is just sitting there somber in a very somber way. Yeah. She's just like, you know, she's just sitting there like taking in the finality of what is happening to her. And we see the anger on Ellie's, the anger level that Ellie has, and she is just smashing everything up that she can possibly smash. And so we're cutting back and forth between Ellie smashing things up in the mall and Ellie ripping the house apart to try and find an answer to the problem that she's dealing with in our present time. So
she's lucky she only had to go through like 4 drawers to find something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I wasn't
in the game.
that.
You go through like 10 drawers sometimes.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So Darren, or Morgan, I guess at this point, Riley and Ellie, Riley kind of talks to Ellie as she's smashing everything. She's like, I think you missed a few or something like that, you know, like, like
well, there's more you can smash over here.
Yeah, exactly. Like... you know, but so there's this really sweet final scene between Riley and Ellie as they kind of talk about the options. So talk about that scene if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, once Ellie gets her aggression out, you know, and sits down to Riley, because it's like, well, what are you going to do now? You might as well spend your last however long you got with somebody you care about, you know, and they basically talk about their options and what they have. And Riley's like, well, we can do the easy one.
Yeah.
Which, you know, self-delete, take care of yourself. She's got the pistol, you know, or essentially we stay here together and enjoy our last moments and kind of go crazy together. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's emotional too in the game when Ellie talks about this part in the original, you know, just the first game. And she even, like, she says to Joel, like, we decided to go nuts together and be poetic about it and just lose our minds together. And the only thing is one of us lost our mind and the other one didn't.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's where we know we don't see the results of it.
Right.
We know what's going to happen. We obviously know Ellie lives and makes it out of there. So you would have to assume she put her down or escaped at least. But that's tough. Yeah, you don't see that. And then we come back to the house we're in and Ellie saving Joel. You know, she feels like, you could tell she feels like she's redeeming herself a little, like, God, I hope this works, since I couldn't save her, but hopefully I could save him.
Yeah.
Because he's a pussy.
Right.
I know. Yeah, he's going.
Well, and watching that,
you know, watching that with a nurse, you know, when you watch stuff with somebody in a profession that involves something you see.
Right.
And my wife was like, well, he's dead anyway because he's not surviving that wound. Like, it's going to be all infected. She's got nothing to clean it with. Like, it's like, and because she's like, oh my God. She's like, I remember you getting to this part in the game. Does he die? She's like, I don't remember. And I'm like, you got to watch and see.
I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I'm not going to ruin it for you.
Tune in for 2 more episodes, will you? 2 more episodes.
Tune in next week.
So, so I, you know, overall.
We talk about real quick the scene where they're.
No, we need to move on.
Turning, you know, where she's turning, and it's terrifying putting yourself in those shoes, thinking I'm going to die. It's, you know, I'm going to be mutated here soon.
Right.
Because they're still there for a little while
Yeah.
before the cordyceps fully takes over.
And then they're in there just trapped.
Yeah.
And then there's that theory that they're just in their trap too. And
it just leads to that age-old question: if you're in this sort of apocalypse and you get bit,
I mean, it's like it's like the mist all over. Like the mist is
God,
just
that's so bad.
It's just
If he just hesitated,
oh,
if
it's
he's
so
like,
good.
you know what, give me 2 more minutes to think about this.
Yeah,
before I do
exactly.
it."
Like it's just
Problem solved.
it's like that. But I'm really glad they didn't show Riley turning.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad they didn't show yet. Maybe they still will. They didn't show Ellie realizing like I'm not turning here, you know?
Yeah, and where that goes, because I guess at that point, because there has to be some sort of filler where Marlene figures out that she's immune, you know, like that has to.
They have to
Yeah,
reveal that at some
because
point.
they don't show it in the game either at all.
Right.
My guess would be is Ellie probably just stays there.
Yeah.
And the Fireflies eventually show up because they were coming for her. She was supposed to leave the next day.
Could be,
you know, so that would be my guess. She just stayed, you know, losing her mind, just stayed there.
Has to. That or she shows up at Marlene's door somehow.
Yeah.
Because if she's there and Riley's dead, they're going to be like, you're infected.
Now, in the game, she knew Marlene.
Right.
They knew each other. So that's why they were together. They knew each other, and she did know Ellie was immune. There was none of that, like, whatever, but they were together, and she does need Joel because she gets shot in the game too.
Yeah.
She needs Joel's help. But that's why they just knew each other. So you just kind of assume, she just went back to Marlene, you know, in the game.
Yeah. Yep. I think it'll be episode 9, knowing, you know, where this is going.
Right.
I don't think we'll get that next week, because next week is a bonkers episode.
I can't wait.
I cannot wait.
If they follow, this is another one where, like, if they follow this to the T, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And we get to see the real Joel in it.
All right.
Shut up.
We'll see.
The voice actor, Troy Baker.
Troy Baker's supposed to be.
Yeah. Troy Baker. They prominently showed him in the next week on.
Him a lot.
Yeah.
They're clearly going to give Dave's right-hand man like a little bit of a bigger role.
Yeah.
That looks like what he's playing.
Yeah.
Well, we get
you can't wait for this.
I know.
It's almost like, how do they keep this next part to one episode?
I know.
Unless it's like one of those 90-minute episodes.
I think it's going to be like a 90-minute episode.
Yeah.
I hope it is, because there's a lot they
with this episode, I will say, whereas my criticism of the Bob and Frank episode was I didn't feel like it moved. Sorry, Bill and Frank episode. That one I felt really didn't move the story of Joel and Ellie along much at all. You know, it was just like a love story, which was fine.
Watch the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes and you're caught up.
Yeah, exactly. This one, on the other hand, dives much deeper into Ellie, and you get a better understanding of who she is pre-bite and like what kind of person she was before all this craziness happened to her. You know, that she's
makes sense to give a main character a backstory episode.
Right. It really filled in a lot of details because we've gotten, you know, that first episode and so far we've been able to build up a history of Joel. You know, we've got a pretty good idea of what drives Joel, but Ellie's backstory has been somewhat of a mystery to this point, you know, and now we're seeing, now we're diving deeper into her. And again,
you see, they're the same people. They're survivors.
That's but again, Darren, you're absolutely right. Bella Ramsey was phenomenal in this episode. Like, she is truly, like, if there was ever any, at least in my mind, I know some of the other critics and stuff, and there are a lot of people, like maybe purists or whatever, they were kind of upset that she got cast in that role. But I'm like, dude, if you watch this episode and you didn't think that she was the right girl for this job, then I don't know how to help you, because she was absolutely the right girl for this particular.
And we discussed that, how her name bugs me though. Because every time I want to say her name, Bella Ramsey, I go, no, that's her Game of Thrones name. And then I'm like, oh no, that's Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, Mormont's Game of Thrones. Like, because I hear Bella Ramsey, I'm like, no, that's a Game of
Her
Thrones.
name was Lyanna. Lyanna Mormont.
Lyanna
Who's
Mormont.
named for Sansa's aunt, who was Jon Snow's mom. I will so thank you for saying I was right. I don't get that very often.
Don't get used to it.
Yeah, I won't. I'm gonna go right upstairs and I'll be wrong or something. Here's where I differ on the Bill and Frank, because I was not on that recap with you guys. I missed that. I see why people are saying what they're saying about that episode and how it didn't move the story forward. But I also believe that the world that they're living in, this apocalypse, is a character in and of itself. And as a character, that was an episode where you got to build out some of that character of the apocalypse. I gave a different perspective. Not saying it's the right thing. I just
like the utopia side of the apocalypse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love seeing people survive in the apocalypse. You know, the best part of, I Am Legend is the first half of that movie. So I really like that part. This also, I felt like was very much needed because you're going to want to know how she was bit. Yeah. That's been like Chekhov's bite since the beginning. Like, as soon as you find out she's infected, you're like, oh, how did she get bit and survive? So you knew this was coming, and they did it very well. Yeah. Like I said, it dragged in the beginning. I don't think we needed that much backstory to get to the mall, but once they got to the mall and they were kids, and it was like a bunch of kids just walking around the mall.
I also, I'll say honestly, I would have been fine if they left out the gym stuff.
Yeah, that wasn't needed.
Because in the game you knew she was in like a Fedra school, but that was it. I'm not like saying,
and you already know she's tough at this point.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I didn't need that. If they dropped that, I think it would have helped. If we picked up like she's in
her room,
in her room, and Riley comes in.
She looks at an empty other side of the room. That gives you all the context.
Yeah, you put a poster up, a Fedra poster, so just like. Yeah. And you see, okay.
Listen, Morgan, stop arguing with me. I'm right. Okay.
Well, in addition to Bella Ramsey's performance in this, Storm Reed, who played Riley, was terrific as well. Just not in addition to being as cute as a button, her performance was so good. She anchored, at least the way I view it, is she anchored Bella, or I should say Ellie's excesses, I guess, or whatever, or like her immaturity. She reins in her immaturity balance a little bit, and provides a good balance to her, and the chemistry between the two of them was undeniable. So all in all, I thought this was a good, like I said, this between this one and the other Frank episode, I could have, I don't know. The way I look at it is if, like you said earlier, if this is the worst of the episodes, we're doing great, because this was still a really good piece of television, and a really good story that needed to be told. And now we have our understanding of how Ellie got bit. And
it's funny talking to the Captain Dunsel there.
Yeah. He eating well.
Yeah, he told me, he said, he goes, honestly, with this show, and he recently texted me, he said, with this show, he goes, I probably would have checked out around the first, or he goes, after the first episode, he goes, I think I would have checked out. He's like, the only reason I'm still in it is because you guys talk about it, and I like listening to you guys. Oh. He goes, but he's like, yeah, the show's not doing it for me right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
And I think he comes from the point of view of, he's like, it's the end of the world. He's like, I do want to see more zombies. Like, it is a zombie show. Like, I want to see more of that. And he's like, I feel like we're just not getting enough tense stuff with those. I'm like, all right, I see what you mean, but
it's always been my issue with The Walking Dead was
went away from zombies.
Well, not so much they went away from zombies. They did. it's how they use zombies now, you know, in the last few seasons, where it was like, hey, you know, the zombies were always this ever-present threat that was always out there, and they always had to be on the lookout and be aware of it. Oh, and by the way, you also have to be on the lookout for other humans, and, you know, identifying whether or not they're going to be friend or foe, you know, that type of thing. Whereas this one here, it doesn't really have, and with The Walking Dead in the later seasons, all they did was they would put them into these stressful situations where they were doing something, trying to accomplish some sort of mission or whatever. And to ratchet up the tension, they send in a dozen or so walkers, and everybody just has a knife and they stab all of them. And I'm like,
right, they all
just like,
well, now the zombies can climb and run and stuff. And
I think I have a good perspective on what you were just kind of talking about, because I got out of it with The Walking Dead once they started going away from the zombies. And what was really great about zombies in the first few seasons that really connected me was, first of all, just the scariness, which you got from like the first season, how zombies are so scary. Like Rick walking through the hospital. Or,
when he turns the corner on the horse in the city, and there's just
and then, you know, you started seeing, like in the second season, the personal connection to zombies. And I remember, because it affected me more because I wasn't watching week to week until I think season 3. So season 1 and 2, I watched back to back with Banana. And I remember when the young girl came out of the barn as a zombie. They were like searching for her for a long time or something.
Yeah, Carol's kid, the whole season they're looking for her.
And that was like one of the first times where I was like, I wasn't even a dad at that point, but I felt like it affected me as a dad. Like and then so that personal
and everybody in that barn was a family member.
Yeah,
like everybody in that barn.
Wasn't Virgil keeping them alive?
Yeah, Virgil was keeping them alive. Yep.
Yeah, because he was like, no, they're still there.
Like,
they're still because he was convinced that they could be fixed, you know,
saved,
or saved, or
saved.
something.
Like this is just,
and that's the existential question around zombies. You know, that question is now in this show, and so, I mean, it was literally asked by a kid in the last episode.
You're only going to save those that are recently infected, right? Like at some point, like how do you save something that doesn't have an arm and a leg, and like, you know,
the face has been mutated. You can't save
like
the person.
that's just they're just gone.
It's for the people who are alive, and even I would even say stalkers would. I'm going to blow your head off because I don't trust that thing. So
yeah.
Oh hell no, no. If you're past the point, like if you're at the point of trying to eat me, I'm killing you. I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to risk it. You're just dead.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
One last point for me. Again, when I go back and watch this, when I went back and watched it the second time, I think I actually know I enjoyed it more, which was funny. I thought, maybe just because you know what's coming, and so
because you know it's going to get
it just moves along a little bit at a better pace. But Morgan, this was probably the most accurate to the game episode. And it's the weakest one.
For you, maybe. I'd say this is the most accurate. The second episode's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
This is the most accurate, and it's based on the DLC. You know, some changes, but this is the most accurate. But I enjoyed it. And I'll say, I knew everything that was coming. I mean, I still pretty much, I would think we know everything's coming. We don't know what changes.
How many times have you played the DLC?
Once.
Okay. I think that
I only played the DLC once.
You don't need to play it more than once,
the PS5 remastered version because I wanted to get all the trophies. So, that's the only time I played it. And I wanted to before the show. But
okay.
No, I think I can see what you mean, but I'm just looking forward to where it's going if they stick with it.
I know.
Erik, I gotta ask you, is Joel alive or dead? Is he making it out of that house?
Yeah, he'll make it out of it. Yeah.
I think that's obvious.
Even knowing how weak he's been.
Listen, I think
even I think he's going to show you how tough he really is. And
it's his immune system.
His immune system is gonna overcome that infection.
Totally.
The oncoming infection.
Little aspirin.
And and he gets a blood
on it, and you're good to go.
He gets a blood transfusion from whatever.
It,
And-
it will be a
we all know.
heavy Ellie episode next week as well.
Yeah, can we all agree? We know Apocalypse 101. You never pull out the weapon that was just placed in you until you're ready to take care of it.
Not just in the apocalypse, just like in
general. If you get stabbed, don't yank it out.
Like, don't wait for the apocalypse.
What's going to kill you?
Yeah.
Don't wait for the apocalypse. It's not okay if tomorrow you
Yeah.
get stabbed and you take it out. Don't keep it in.
Yeah, be prepared.
So Morgan, final thoughts then. We
Final
got Darren's
thoughts.
final thoughts, but your final thoughts.
Liked it. I thought it was a solid episode. I think a lot of people really liked it. I know IGN gave it like a 9 out of 10 or something.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was good, and I'm just really excited to see what's coming next.
Did you like it better than Doctor Strange and the
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness? Okay.
I think this should win
People's Choice
Movie of the Year.
Movie of the
It should
year.
just win Movie of the Year, even though it's not a movie. Like, God, I still can't believe that.
You guys,
I'm
if
telling
you
they only
haven't
asked
been
Bill.
listening to the
Bill's only
rundown,
one.
I am not going to let this go. Like, I am going to milk that joke for.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's funny every time you say
Right.
it. So please continue. And it has not missed yet. It is so freaking good. Every time you say it, I laugh.
Yeah,
I'm not joking.
overall, I think it was a good episode. Like I said, like we've said, it's
We're eating well.
we're eating well. We're eating well on
Collected,
this,
well-written,
for
well
sure.
shot.
So, but I'll wrap up the show here and just say thanks to everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Nerd Rundown Recaps. Next week we'll be back on the rundown, and then also we'll be recapping episode 8, which we have 2 left, I think, right? 8 and 9 is all we've got left. So,
Annoying as that. Can we just
so we have been greenlit for at least one more season. So our
Neil Druckmann
heroes
says he can't tell the second game in just one season, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yep. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week on the Nerd Rundown Recaps. See ya. Bye.
Peace.
Deuces.